If you're anything like me, then you've seen all the new mountain bikes out on the market, and you've probably also seen all the price tags that seem to just get higher and higher. And you've probably thought like I have, is there any entry-level bike or a lower price point bike that can do all the things I want to do and still keep me happy and not regretting spending the money? Let's talk about that. Hey guys, Josh here with Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and today is a review and a bike check of my new 2018 Diamondback Sinker. Now, if you're newer to the channel, then you need to know that I absolutely love hardtails. Even though I have a really nice full suspension bike, I always want to own a hardtail because I feel like at the price point, you can't get a better value, and hardtails can do everything full suspension bikes can do. Now, before you continue in this video, make sure you check out my unboxing and talking about why I'm selling my old 2017 Rally Toggle 3 and why I've picked up the Diamondback Sinker. Now, I want to talk about the bike and talk about how it climbed and descended in my overall review, but first, let me talk to you about the specs of my newly upgraded 2018 Diamondback Sinker and why I made the upgrades I did. Let's work our way up from the bottom to the top, and the first thing is the Diamondback Blanchard wheel set. This is a different color wheel set, but it's the exact same. The only difference is that this version has a 110 millimeter spacing up front for a boost fork since I had to upgrade the fork. Looking at the tires, in the back I put a Maxxis Minion DH-R2, and in the front I put a Maxxis Minion DH-F. The WTB tires that came on the bike were totally fine. They aren't technically tubeless ready, though you can run them tubeless. But I wanted much more cushion in my tires in order to make my ride a little more enjoyable on the hardtail. So I put a 2.4 in the back and a 27.5 by 2.6 up front to add a little more cushion. Moving up from there, I kept the drivetrain the same with the SRAM NX 1x11 drivetrain and the race face effect crank. The only difference is I had to put a GX cassette on the new hubs that I got. Up from there, looking at the brakes, I kept the brakes the same, but I did upgrade the rotors to be Shimano SLX, 160 millimeters in the rear and 180 up front. And this allows me to run metallic brake pads, which have a lot more grip and are a lot more better suited for my riding. Looking up from there, the biggest upgrade is the fork upgrade. I went from the RockShox Recon, which had 130 millimeters of travel, and now I have a Fox 34 Performance. This is the grip dampener, which is actually so well loved by Fox that their new 2019 Fox Factory 36s are going to include the new grip 2.0. So this fork, though it was a really great deal when I bought it, is still real top of the line, allows you to add volume reducing spacers and really make a great supple ride. Moving up from there, I added a dropper seat post. This is a 170 millimeter PNW Rainier dropper post. These are by far, I think, the best seat posts on the market because they have absolutely no play in the saddle and they're crazy reliable and work well for months and years. Last but not least, looking at the cockpit, I kept that all the same except added my Ergon grips, a 1x-dropper remote, and looking at the saddle, I put on a WTB Volt because I love WTB saddles. Now, enough about the spec, let's talk about how the bike rode. And I love when I'm out on the trails to give an honest review as I'm riding the bike. So here is me as I was climbing just the other day.
All right, guys, so out here just on a little cross-country climb trail here in Bellingham on the Sinker. And man, this thing just climbs so good. And people give me a lot of gripe about certain bikes that I say just don't climb very well. And the reason is I climb so many full suspension bikes and then I get on my hardtail and obviously none of those compare. With this, you get instant feedback to your drivetrain. Yeah, you don't get as much traction on the rear wheel, but it's just so much fun and so easy to go up. So anyway, the Sinker is not unique compared to other hardtails in its climbing, but it's just a hardtail that climbs really well. All right, time to get up there and do the fun part. Let's get to the downs.
Overall, the Sinker climbed really well, but that's true for any hardtail. You don't get as much traction over rootier sections as you're climbing, but every pedal stroke you take equals more momentum as you get up the mountain. But more than climbing, let's talk about how this hardtail descended.
All right, guys, dropping into Scorpion on the Sinker. And right off the bat, we got a 5-foot drop. Really test out that hardtail skill. And man, you gotta ride this hardtail along with every other one a little different than a full suspension. First thing I noticed about the sinker on the downs is that this bike is very responsive. Having those shorter wheels, shorter seat stays, you can just whip this thing off anything, and it's just so fun. It's almost like coming from a long travel 29er, coming from a 27.5 plus bike, it's almost like a dirt jump bike. Anyway, this is just a ton of fun. I'm gonna keep going and tell you what I thought after the ride.
As you can see, I was having a great time out there on the mountain. Now, yes, I was on more flow trails and not very long trails, so I could take breaks in between. But overall, I ride the exact same on my hardtail as I do my full suspension. And I felt like with the Fox 34 fork and the little bit bigger tires that I had a really supple ride. I was able to go off all the jumps and features I love, and I had a great time out there on the bike. With that said though, I do think there are some positives and some negatives about the Diamondback sinker, and I want to give those to you. But first, let's talk about the negatives. The first thing, and I've said it before and I'm sorry to say it again, is the lack of a boost front hub. Now, if you're not looking to upgrade this bike, then the standard stock build, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you do eventually want to upgrade the fork like I have done, it means you're going to have to get either spacers for your front wheel or get a whole new front wheel. Not a big deal, but an issue for guys like me who love to upgrade. The second negative about the bike, and I walked into this knowingly, is the wheel size. 27.5 plus allow the tires to give a little more cushion to your riding, but the sinker comes with just 27.5, and it makes the bike twitchier and easier to turn and maneuver, but in turn, it makes it for a little less enjoyable ride on the really long descents or really bumpy areas. And the last negative, again, is expected with the bike, is it does not have rear suspension, causing your hands to get fatigued and for your legs to get fatigued because you're riding the bike differently. Now, this is something you can develop over time, but if you're looking for the one do-it-all bike and you're debating between a hardtail and a full suspension, you've got to know there is definitely a benefit to having rear suspension in your bike, but it's nothing you can't get over by some time and some practice. But with those negatives, let's move on to the positives. The first is this bike is super responsive. Having 27.5 wheels, having just one single suspension point and not two as a full suspension, the bike, you feel super playful and you can push it into jumps and go off anything, and the bike is super easy to maneuver and you have a ton of fun on it. Number two is the bike is bulletproof. Diamondback is known for making great frames that are super strong. I put this bike to the test right off the bat, going off big jumps and jumping off big berms, big drops, and the bike took everything I could throw at it, and I never at one point felt nervous or scared that the bike was going to break on me. And last but not least, man, there's just something fun about hardtails. If you're a person who rides a lot of full suspension bikes, then you just don't get it, but there's something so responsive and you feel every bump in the trail, and it just brings a joy. And for me, it reminds me of my childhood way more than a full suspension bike does. And it just, call me crazy, makes me happier to be out there on the trails. Overall, looking at my whole review of the bike, I love the Diamondback sinker. And honestly, I think it is one of the best priced hardtails on the market right now. Over at Diamondback's site, you'll see that this bike is listed for $1,200 US, but on Amazon right now, you can get a medium for under $900. For a bulletproof drivetrain, for great wheels, great tires, an awesome cockpit, and a fork that will do anything you need, you can get an awesome bike for $900. So make sure you click the link down below so you can go check it out yourself. But at the end of the day, it's not about what I think about the bike. It's about you finding a sinker near you that you can give a try so that you can see if this is the best bike for you. Thanks so much for watching my review. If you like what you saw, make sure you click the thumbs up button down below and leave a comment if you have any questions or have any thoughts on the bike. And last but not least, click subscribe down there so that you can stay up to date on all my bike reviews and my riding videos from me taking the sinker and using it for a long time and pushing it to its limits. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching, and you know what time it is. Don't spend too much time watching YouTube, but get out there and go ride your bike. Do it every day so you can get better every single day.